The world to stories here at home. This is the National News Broadcast. A pleasant evening. I'm Dilanjali Ananda.
And I am Tilina Udayaratna. First off, we take a look at tonight's top stories. 21 reservoirs in Kabitigolava are to be expeditiously reconstructed. The Kanugahaveva village is also to be turned into a model village. The number of fully cured coronavirus patients in the island has increased to 34,623. The government decides to provide technological and entrepreneurial knowledge in creating industrialists on regional level. The business community commends the government for taking measures for the progress of the tourism sector. The 1000 National School project begins. A record number of coronavirus patients in Britain.
For those and other stories in detail. The Sri Lanka Air Force has been entrusted with the task of turning the Kanugahaveva village in Kabitigolava into a model village. The decision was taken when President Gotabaya Rajapaksa arrived in the village today to participate in the Gama Samaga Pilisandara program. This was the fourth stage of the Gama Samaga Pilisandara program, which inaugurated on the 25th of September this year. The aim of the President is to visit remote villages which have not been subjected to proper attention and to correctly identify the long-standing unresolved problems of the rural public. The President also anticipates to directly submit to the relevant officials of the problems of the villages and to obtain solutions. Kanugahaveva village in Kabitigolava, located 73 kilometers away from the Anuradhapura town, was selected for the current Gama Samaga Pilisandara program. The public meeting was conducted at the premises of the Kanugahaveva Primary School. People in several villages, including Talgahaveva, Halmillavatiya, Tammannava, Herathammillava and Nikavava, have come forward to present their grievances to the President. Kabitigolava is a village which was constantly subjected to LTT air attacks during the war period. On the 15th of June in the year 2006, 68 persons in Kanugahaveva and surrounding villages were killed due to a Tiger terrorist bomb attack on a bus in the Kabitigolava village. Residents in these remote villages are compelled to live in camps during the period from 1995 to 2008 as a result of the continuous terrorist attacks. These threats have now ended, but the villages are confronted with serious economic and social problems. The main source of livelihood of people in Kanugahaveva as well as in surrounding villages is paddy cultivation. These people are experiencing immense difficulties in their cultivation activities as a result of the Department of Wildlife and Conservation of Forests demarcating their lands as protective areas. The President explained to the people that his policy and the government is to give prominence to agriculture. And he instructed the officials not to obstruct their daily cultivation activities. It was also being decided to correctly identify the surplus forest area through marking of protectorates according to Google Maps after the year 2012. It was also being pointed out that many villages were deprived of ownership of their lands due to the implementation of Yan Oe project. The President reiterated that prominence should be given to these villages when handing over alternate lands and compensation. It was also decided to immediately reconstruct 21 of the filled reservoirs. Several canals will also be developed under the program. Such a measure would provide relief to more than 1,000 families. They would be able to cultivate in new further 8,000 acres of land. A major problem confronted by milk farmers is the lack of grasslands. Therefore, attention was focused to prepare grasslands as a means to enhance dairy farming. The President also instructed the officials to expeditiously fulfill teacher shortage and other shortcomings in the Kanugahaveva Primary School and also in the Halmillavatiya and Kabitigolava villages. Measures are also taken to speedily develop the road network in the area. The President also instructed to reconstruct the Nikavava in order to fulfill the drinking water and irrigated water requirements of the people. It was also decided to fulfill the doctors' and nurses' requirement at the Kabitigolava Base Hospital. The President also engaged in an open discussion with the general public. The President also vested with the students the model classroom with computer facilities donated to the Kanugahavava Primary School by the Sri Lanka Telecom and Mobitel Institutes in parallel to the Gamasanga Pilisandra program. Director General of the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, Oshida Senanayaka, and Group Executive of the Sri Lanka Telecom and Mobitel, Lalit Senivaratne, have also attended the event. 2 books written by Lalit Senivaratne were presented to the President. The President, after attending the public meeting, visited the Sirisuluga Dambula Vihara, Mulika Pirivena, in Vihara Halmillava and called upon chief incumbent of the Vihara Venerable Halmillave Dhamma Rakita. The President has extended his tribute to the Venerable Thera for his endeavours in protecting the Vihara by facing terrorist threats. The President assured to provide funds for the development of the Viharasthana. Ministers S.M. Chandrasena, State Ministers Duminda Disanaika, Shehan Semasinghe, Channa Jayasumana and parliamentarians S. Nandasena, Uddika Premaratna, as well as North Central Province Governor Mahipala Herat, President's Chief Advisor Lalit Viratunga and many other people's representatives also took part in the Gamasanga Pilisandra program.
COVID-19 recoveries in the country reached the 34,623 mark today. Another 698 COVID-19 recoveries left hospitals today. 46 fully recovered COVID-19 patients who were receiving treatment at the COVID-19 treatment centres in Polonnaruwa were discharged today. They were identified as residents of Colombo. A total of 17,733 COVID-19 recoveries have been reported in the country since the beginning of this month until today. The highest number of COVID-19 recoveries recorded in a day was reported on the 16th of December. The percentage of fully recovered COVID-19 patients in the country is at 81.63, taking the tally to 34,623. The percentage of active patients receiving treatment is at 17.91, with the tally at 7,599. Meanwhile, another 354 COVID-19 patients were identified in the island today. Out of this, 451 have been identified as close associates of the patients in the Paliagoda cluster. Another 698 COVID-19 recoveries left hospitals today. A total of 10,564 PCR tests were conducted yesterday, and the total number of PCR tests conducted so far is at 1,239,432. The Koskama Police Division was removed from the isolation status with effect from this evening. The Galagedara East Grama Seva Division in Paduka has been declared as an isolated area from today. A person died in a house in the area on the 24th of this month. Subsequent PCR tests have confirmed that he was a COVID-19 patient. The remains of the deceased were brought to the Avisavela hospital. It has also been confirmed that 26 out of the 40 persons who have arrived in the house after receiving the news of the passing away were also infected with COVID-19. As a result, Paduka Galagedara area was declared as an isolated zone. It has been identified through PCR tests that 3 out of the 180 tourists who came to the island from Ukraine on the 28th of this month were afflicted with the coronavirus. Minister of Tourism Prasanna Ranatunga says foreign tourists do not maintain direct contact with locals. Employees in hotels where tourists stay are being subject to a 14-day quarantine after their relevant duties. They are then subject to 14 PCR tests, and the minister adds that due to the implementations of a methodological program, there are no obstructions to the pilot project to bring tourists into the country. 59,377 expatriate Sri Lankan workers who have been stranded in foreign countries due to the COVID-19 expansion were brought back. 11,323 such overseas employees have been brought back in the past 29 days. Another batch of 1,072 Sri Lankan workers are scheduled to return to the island tomorrow. These figures represent the highest number of Sri Lankan workers returning to the island within a month.
Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravira says that with the New Year's Eve approaching round the corner, the people should celebrate in a responsible and simple manner while adhering to health protective guidelines and limiting social gatherings during the pandemic. He made these remarks in a media briefing today.
Today being 30th December, we know that coming couple of days very crucial for our country. Most of the people that celebrate the eve of New Year in a festival manner, but this year we have to celebrate the eve of New Year in a different way, in a healthy way, because we report several hundred cases of COVID-19 daily. With that, we have to be very careful. We have observed that during past couple of days, some people has gathered and that celebrated and had different functions without adhering to the health guidelines. They are crowding without face masks and without proper sanitary or hygienic measures. So this is a very good conducive environment to spread COVID-19. We have experienced that during different festivals, different parties, that COVID-19 has been spread over the past couple of months. So because of that, we request all the people to celebrate the eve of New Year with a different way and adhering to the health guideline that should not gather around and should maintain 1 meter distance all the time and should wear a face mask properly and also should keep their hands hygienically.
Now, taking a look at the bigger picture of the overseas COVID-19 situation, Britain has become the first country in the world to approve a coronavirus vaccine developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca as it battles a major winter surge driven by a new, highly contagious variant of the virus.
The UK approved the use of a COVID-19 vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University on Wednesday, paving the way for a serious ramping up of the country's immunisation programme. Britain has ordered 100 million doses of the vaccine, which is easier to store and distribute than several of its rivals. For many, the news couldn't come soon enough, as Britain battles a major winter surge of coronavirus infections, driven in part by a new, more infectious variant of the virus. On Tuesday, more than 53,000 new cases of COVID-19 were reported, the highest number since mass testing began in mid-2020. This pushed the government to be on the verge of introducing tougher lockdown measures. A report in The Times on Wednesday suggests millions more people will be placed under stay-at-home orders. The paper reported that hospitals in London are running out of intensive care beds and are drawing up plans to send patients to other parts of the country. There remains a debate about whether children should go back to school in January. Britain is the first country in the world to approve the AstraZeneca-Oxford vaccine. Health Minister Matt Hancock said it was a moment to celebrate British innovation and a time to be hopeful. He said the UK could now see its route out of the pandemic. The regulatory approval is a boost for AstraZeneca and Oxford, which have been accused of a lack of clarity about the results from late-stage trials.
Australian authorities have restricted movement and tightened curbs on gatherings in Sydney, hoping to avoid a coronavirus super spreader event during the city's New Year's Eve celebrations after detecting a new cluster of cases.
Sydney's New Year's Eve celebrations with dazzling firework displays bursting from the Sydney Harbour Bridge will be more subdued this year, as new social distancing restrictions were announced on Wednesday in a bid to curb a new coronavirus cluster. Household gatherings were limited to just 5 people, and public gatherings have been capped at 30. Residential care facilities were also closed to visitors. New South Wales State Premier Gladys Berejiklian urged people to stay at home for New Year's celebrations to avoid a super-spreading event.
But we don't want New Year's Eve to be a situation where undetected cases, people who may be in the very early stages of the disease and not know they've got it, not know they're infectious, unintentionally give it to those closest to them.
18 new COVID-19 cases were reported on Wednesday, the biggest daily increase in a week. Half were linked to an outbreak in Sydney's northern beaches that's now grown to more than 100 people over the past week. Another cluster has also sprung up on the inner west side of Sydney, with 6 members of an extended family testing positive. Live viewings of this year's fireworks will be limited only for people with confirmed hospitality bookings and a permit. And as for the fireworks, the usual 9 p.m. display has been cancelled altogether, and their annual midnight display will be reduced to just 7 minutes.
Strict stay-at-home orders were renewed indefinitely yesterday for the majority region in California, as the state's top health officials said that many hospitals were teetering on the brink of crisis.
California extended a strict stay-at-home order on Tuesday for the majority of its residents, as hospitals in the state said they were on the brink of crisis. Tough restrictions imposed earlier this month on social and economic life in Southern California have been extended indefinitely. Los Angeles County has been particularly hard hit by the virus, with 90% of hospitals there overwhelmed by an influx of patients. Over the past weekend, they've been forced to divert incoming emergency patients to other facilities. California Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Mark Ghaly said some hospitals have been forced to weigh up the effectiveness of certain treatments for certain patients who are unlikely to survive.
There are emergency room physicians and ICU clinicians and nurses looking at how they stretch themselves effectively to so many different patients. And of course, as I was sort of describing in the rubber band analogy, that if you stretch far enough, certainly the ability to address all of a patient's needs, to address the demands of new patients becomes harder.
While Ghaly said hospitals weren't rationing medical supplies and treatment, he expects conditions to get worse as the surge in infections from the holiday season translate into hospitalizations. Residents are being urged to stay indoors and avoid travel except for grocery shopping, medical appointments and exercise. Restaurants are only able to do takeout and bars have been closed altogether. And what are some of the toughest restrictions in the US?
And our news back at home. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival and Elimination of Poverty, Basil Rajapaksa, says that prominence should be given to the task of providing technological and entrepreneurial knowledge in creating new industrialists in the rural level. He has instructed Vidata and skills development officials to take the relevant measures in this connection. The budget proposals of 2021 on the implementation of rural-level development programs come under the purview of the State Ministries of Rural Industries and Research and Innovations. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force has reiterated on these issues at a recently conducted discussion at the Temple Trees. The meeting focused special attention on skills development, vocational education, research and new creations based on cane, brassware, clay, furniture and other rural industries. Attention is also focused on recruitment of trainee graduate officials for duties in Divisional Secretariat Division offices where duties have not been assigned for Vidata officials. The participants have also discussed on enhancing more vocational education opportunities on the regional level and to develop curriculum to suit to the needs of the job market. The budget has proposed to create 14,022 new industrialists from each of the Grama Seva division. A joint development program on traditional villages is also being implemented. Mr. Basil Rajapaksa further said that the aim of the government is to strengthen the rural communities through provision of technological and financial support by incorporating the government institutions in the program. State Ministers Sita Arambepola and Prasanna Ranavira have also attended the event.
The business community says that the measures taken by the government to resuscitate the local tourism industry is most commendable. It was on the 19th of March this year that the airports of the country were closed down as a result of COVID-19. Accordingly, not a single tourist has arrived in the country in the past 9 months. The airport operations were based mainly on bringing back expatriate workers and to exchange air cargo and passengers. Nearly 3 million people who were directly and indirectly relying on income opportunities in the tourism sector have been affected. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, by taking into consideration the situation, have made arrangements to reopen the airports and the country to the tourists under strict health guidelines through the intervention of the chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Basil Rajapaksa, and Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga. The provision of aviation facilities targeting selected groups of tourists and opening the country to the tourists has been successful. Under the pilot project to be implemented until the 24th of January, 2,080 tourists from countries of the Russian Federation are expected to be brought to the country. The airport is scheduled to be declared as officially open to the tourists by the final week of next month. The government also hopes to reopen commercial flights as well. The business community is placing great hope on the firm decision taken by the government.
State Minister of Transport Willem Amunigama says that the Army Signal Task Force will take over the printing of driver's license with effect from the 1st of January next year. He made these remarks at a media briefing today. State Minister of Transport Willem Amunigama said that this is not a program which could be stopped and to go for a tender procedure. Driver's licenses are needed to be issued on a daily basis. Therefore, the State Minister said that they have decided to assign the duties to a group of officials in the Signal Task Force of the Sri Lanka Army with effect from the 1st of January. The State Minister further said that, however, they will also look into the possibility of going back to a tender system. But he added that the government is compelled to hand over an income of millions of rupees to a private company through such a system. The money will be retained by the government if the army is engaged in the operation. The State Minister further said that it would be possible to divert the state funds for public welfare measures. The government intervention would enable even to lower the charges.
The program to establish 1,000 national schools has commenced today. Minister of Education Professor G.L. Piris presided over the event at the Sri Jayawardhanapura College, Kotte. The 200-year-old Sri Jayawardhanapura College was earmarked as the first school for the 1,000 National School Program. A special feature has been that it was the school where the founder of free education, Dr. C.W.W. Kannangara, had his education. Measures will be taken to develop all sectors of learning, including facilities to teach information technology and language facilities in this school. The Minister of Education at the inauguration ceremony said that all latest facilities will be provided for new national schools. The 1,000 National Schools program is being implemented in several stages under the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. In the initial phase, 123 schools will be upgraded as national schools. Well, stay tuned with us. We have more news right after this break.
Welcome back. We continue with more news from home. Minister of Mass Media Kehalia Ramukwala was engaged in an inspection tour at the independent television network today. The minister, upon arrival at the ITN Media Network, declared open the trade union office. Thereafter, he inspected the proposed land where the ITN's new studio complex is to be constructed. Later on, he visited the Lakhanda Broadcasting Studio complex as well. Minister of Mass Media Kehalia Ramukwala said that they have been entrusted with the task to implement the series of policies of the government. If one considers this is a mouthpiece of the government, then that means it is the main organ to implement the state policy. The minister further said that Saubhagya Idiridakma is the policy of the government and also the policy of the party. He added that 6.9 million people have endorsed this policy. They have approved the people-oriented forward march known as the Vision of Prosperity. The government has the responsibility to implement the program. Minister Ramukwala further said that the media is entrusted with the task to protect media civility. Secretary to the Ministry of Mass Media Jagat P. Vijayveera, Chairman of the ITN Media Network Sudat Rohana, Chief Executive Officer Nalin Nishanka and other officials were also present on the occasion.
වැදගත්කම ශීලාචාරකමක් රකින්න. ඒ රැකෙන අතරතුර අපේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති මාලාව ඉදිරියට ගැනීමේ වගකීම කියලා. මේක බොහොම සමහරක් ටිකක් අමාරු දෙයක්. මේක තුලනය කිරීම වැදගත්.
A ceremony to facilitate senior artists who have contributed to numerous creations at the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation was held at the corporation premises yesterday. The event was organized in parallel to the 95th anniversary of the SLBC. The chief invitee of this occasion was Minister of Mass Media Keheli Ramukwala. Under the first stage of the program, 10 senior artists representing numerous fields were appreciated. A special feature was the felicitation of artists whose innovations were overlooked for the past 54 years. Several more artists are to be felicitated under the program. Director General of the Government Information, Lanka Rupavahini, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, Jagat Wickramasinghe, Director General Chandrapala Liyanage, as well as a group of senior artists of the National Radio who have represented numerous fields also took part in the event.
The Badulla district inauguration ceremony of the Vari Saubhagya program was presided over by Ministers Chamal Rajapaksa and Nimal Siripala de Silva yesterday. The Vari Saubhagya program is being implemented with the objective of restoring tanks, anicuts and the irrigation network of the country on the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Reconstruction of the Panangala Reservoir in Bandaravilla commenced yesterday. The project is being implemented by the Land Development Corporation. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa said that the Umaoya scheme brings immense benefit to the area. He added that, however, the construction of the underground tunnel without proper evaluation has caused hardship to the people. The excuse given for the inability was lack of adequate officials for evaluation. The minister further said that their priority is that only persons with dedication should be given the upper hand to implement these projects by first resolving the problems of the people.
Sri Lanka's oldest woman has passed away at the Nagoda General Hospital in Kalathura at the age of 117 years yesterday. She was a resident at the Clouden Estate in Nehin, Dodangoda, Kalathura. Her name was Pap Patti Velu. She was born on the 3rd of May 1903. Velu was married to a Sinhalese youth and a mother of 2 children. The husband has passed away 29 years ago. There is information regarding the children of Pap Patti Velu. The Sri Lanka Adult Secretariat, which compiled data on oldest persons in the country, was constantly in touch with the centurion and has felicitated her last year.
Well, that's it from the Rupavahini News Desk for tonight. Join us once again tomorrow. Until then, take care. Have a great night.
Good night.